everyone. The school board meeting for April 25th, 2023 is now in session. Thank you for being here. Today with us, we will have the invocation led by Pastor Matthew Keogh, or Pastor Matt, as I like to call him. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Dr. Jeff Arnott. The national anthem will be led by the students of St. Cloud String Quartet. That will be exciting. Mission statement will be led by Michelle Jarrett, and interpretation services will be provided by Dr. Lastenia Peñalosa. And if we can, please stand for the invocation. Pastor Matt, is he here? I don't see him. Or we can do a moment of silence. Thank you. Dr. Arnott?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
The mission of the School District of Osceola County is inspiring all learners to reach their highest potential as responsible, productive citizens.
Hello, good evening. My name is Dr. Lastenia Peñalosa, and I am here to provide interpretation services. Buenas noches, bienvenidos. Mi nombre es Dr. Lastenia Peñalosa. Estoy aquí para proveer servicios de interpretación.
Board members, now is the time where we set our positive comments. I will start with the board member from District 4, Board Member King.
Thank you. I just want to thank our team from Pirtle and our facilities team for inviting me out to Gateway last week. I was able to see the construction in progress there, and it's pretty amazing to see all that's happening on that campus. And I actually got to see it from the other side of things on Monday when I was there for decision days. So to see what that staff and those students are dealing with on a day-to-day basis is pretty amazing, and I give them big thanks for enduring the pain to get to the pleasure at the end, because it's really going to be a beautiful campus when all is said and done. One of the things I learned was that on a daily basis we employ anywhere between 100 and 300 local workers when we have a project like that going on. So to think about all of the projects that we have ahead of us in facilities and how many people we will be employing on a daily basis is pretty amazing. I also want to share that our Neptune Middle School theater students participated in the Disney Halfway to Halloween workshop recently. They sent me a little YouTube video, and it was all about props and stage makeup, and it was really amazing. So I'm going to share that on my district social media, so feel free to go find that later this week. Disney did a whole little highlight of what the students learned there, and I loved seeing that for them. And then this is something that I didn't plan on sharing, but I was just telling one of our fellow board members about it and thought, let me share real quick, and especially I think some of our Liberty High students are here. And so a friend of mine, her daughter is graduating from Liberty this year, and I was just talking to her yesterday because her daughter's going to be receiving a scholarship at tomorrow night's Education Foundation Scholarship Award Ceremony. And Emma is actually going to graduate with her certification in pharmacy tech, and she could get a job right now today because she already has her state certification, but she needs her high school diploma, and so she's just waiting for that to come in just a few weeks, and then she's going to go right into working at a local pharmacy, hopefully, while she goes on to do Osceola Prosper here to do her get her degree in pharmaceuticals. So I think that's really great, and it's just one of the many CTE programs that we have in our district, and I just wanted to highlight it because I thought, wow, I can't believe that, you know, she's just waiting for her diploma to get a job, and she could do it right now today if she had that. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Board Member Booth?
Yes, thank you. I was recently able to go to St. Cloud High School to attend their ROTC accreditation. Colonel Donnelly invited me out, and I had a chance to sit on a panel with Mayor Blackwell from St. Cloud and Dirk Webb, our St. Cloud Chamber president. And so to have the community out there, we have some fantastic students who are in those programs and instructors. And I want to thank those students, the seniors especially, for being a shining example of the service that you're going to be fulfilling for our nation, and proud to have Osceola schools serving our country. Also, I had a chance earlier on the week to attend Toho High School's Decision Day. Thank you to Mr. Cook. I had a chance to hear about the origin of all that at Poinciana High School and how that's grown. It was impactful to see all the kids that decided their pathways from either trade schools, employment, to four-year universities, and also the military. So that was a real treat for my first time ever going. Also, I had a chance to go to the transportation department. They spent about 2.5 to 3 hours with me touring, and I got to see every single piece of that department, from maintenance to welding to the folks that are on the line that take those calls for emergency situations and things of that nature. It is such an ordeal and a challenge to transfer over 27,000 of our students to and from school safely each day. So I want to give a kudos out to that, and I don't want to steal our recognition that's happening soon with our bus drivers. Also was able to attend the CFHLA, which is our Central Florida Hotel and Lodging Association CARES event, where local Central Florida hoteliers and allied partners partner with local school districts. They have a hygiene drive that has students in need for hotel items, a shoe drive, scholarships, internships. Those partners give back to our students in lots of different ways. And congratulations to OHS student Melanie Bezold for receiving a full ride scholarship to the Rosen College of Hospitality Management. That was $40,000 that one of our partners was able to hand out. So that we love Central Florida Hotel Lodging Association. And last, I had a chance to visit Eastlake Elementary School. They had their STEM night, and it was packed. Families and community partners came out. It was great to see the kids and their youngest little ones, not even a pre-K yet, attending to do science activities and math. We had lots of partners there, such as SeaWorld, NASA, the Environmental Center came out, and I love to see those community events coming back. So that's all that I have.
Thank you. Board Member Arguello?
Yeah, good evening. I went out to Poinciana High School this morning for Decision Day. I'm going to try to get out to as many schools as I can for the event. It's very nice. People celebrate, essentially the school celebrates where everyone's going. And it's great to see so many kids joining the military and going to college and with jobs already. So it's a really fun celebration. I would recommend it to any parent out there who has the opportunity to go. And at the same time, I have some students from Liberty High School, if you guys would come up. So I got an email from a teacher recently who said I needed to meet some students. And they took me on a tour. And the tour, if for those of you who aren't familiar with Liberty High School, it's a challenge school, right? It's not the easiest school. It's not, we have the worst traffic and a million other problems besides that. And but these girls are making an impact on their community already. And these are exactly the type of people who represent the best of our community. And I'm going to let them talk a little bit about their program. But before I do that, let me read a little bit about what they are, who they are as individuals. So Victoria, she's the chair of the Liberty Ambassadors. She's also part of several other clubs and organizations on campus, including NHS, National Honor Society, Yearbook, Senior Committee. She's an executive intern, works with VPK, and is a softball manager while maintaining a 3.6 GPA. So obviously, she's a tremendous student and more. Yeah. And she was on that tour with me. Valeria, she's the co-chair of the Liberty Ambassadors and part of National Honor Society, Yearbook, SAC, and the Mathletes, while maintaining a 3.86 GPA. She also takes 2 AP courses. So congratulations to you. I was on the Yearbook in high school, but I was not a mathlete and I did not have a 3.86 GPA, in case anyone was wondering. Michaela Lanique Smith, chair of the Service Committee of the Liberty Ambassadors and secretary of Liberty SAC. She's also an NHS, Mathletes, Junior Committee, Science Olympiad, tennis team, and is an executive intern. She works part-time while taking several AP courses, and she maintains a small 4.05 GPA. And Luisa Abina Dotzi, co-chair of the Service Committee of the Liberty Ambassadors. She is also part of SAC, NHS, NTHS, Junior Class Committee, and the tennis team, while taking 2 AP courses, being enrolled in DE. What is DE? Dual enrollment. Okay, that's what I thought. And maintaining a 4.07 GPA. So they're doing a lot. Yeah? Yeah, congratulations. And this is their teacher, Ms. Gomez, who reached out to me and said, hey, you need to come out and see what these kids are doing at Liberty High School. They took me on a tour. They have a food pantry at the school. Obviously, it's a challenging community, as I said, and these girls here, these students, are fighting hard to fill that pantry so that they can support their fellow students. It's not every day that you meet a teenager who's worried about that type of thing. So they are truly outstanding young people. I am extremely proud to live in the same neighborhood as you guys. So I have a certificate here of appreciation for their wonderful teacher. And would you like to say anything about these girls?
Well, obviously, they're amazing. I love them. They're like daughters to me. And it's beautiful to see that they care so much and they work so hard, not just to maintain their GPA and to reach their own goals, but to try to help others reach their goals.
And they're in need of support from the community. They get once a month delivery of food so that they can support their community, and they need other organizations and people to donate to their pantry so that they can continue supporting their school community. So if you know anyone, or if you or have the ability to contribute to their program, please do reach out to Ms. Gomez or myself, and we will get it to them. One of the biggest things that teenagers eat apparently is ramen. So they're having a ramen crisis. So if you guys can go to BJ's and pick up a box of ramen, I'll be going to BJ's and picking you guys up a couple boxes of ramen to help, and I hope that everyone else will as well. So thank you, Michaela.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Valeria.
Thank you.
Victoria.
Thank you.
And Luisa.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I also have some Amazon gift cards for you guys. Just a small token of our appreciation for all of your hard work. And one last thing. A little coin of excellence. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for what you do. I really appreciate all of your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, that's it. Over here. Thank you guys. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job, ladies. Board Member Melendez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just this afternoon, we had a workshop, a board workshop, and I just want to thank all the ESC committee members that volunteered their time to get together and give us some excellent recommendations. I mean, we've had some committees before in the past, and sometimes folks wonder, are they really giving us all? Give us the meat and potatoes, because sometimes, they're employees and they're worried about, being a little too critical. But the reality is, in order for us to get better, we have to have that honest feedback, that honest dialogue. And I can truly say that I felt that this afternoon. They gave us a lot of good recommendations. As a district, it's tough to implement every single one of them, but we're heading in the right direction. And so I just really want to appreciate everyone that took the time to really, participate. And you can tell that they did their homework, they participated. And thank you, Dr. Pace, for helping lead that and make that happen. So I really want to thank each one of them that, that really did it on their own volition, so to speak. Also, I went to the School for the Arts because they have Essential Ellington coming up and they're trying to raise money. So I'm going to be out here trying to help them fundraise as well. They just had a concert this past weekend. I didn't get the final tally, so I don't know how close they are, but I'm pretty sure they're a couple $1,000s short. I talked to Chris Burns to try to get that update. But I tell you right now, it was great. I mean, I thought it was going to be at the theater itself, but they did it in the cafeteria, and they made it really personal. And so all the parents were there, and they had like some guests, musicians come in from New Orleans and some other places, and you could just tell music it's a part of their soul. It's who they are, and they were number one. They were the number one band last year. So, I hate to be using part of my board member comments to do a fundraising pitch. I try to put whatever money I can do, so I just want to ask everyone that they're short a couple dollars, but they deserve it. They're amazing kids. Please come out there and support them. The last thing that we did as well, I went on a school safety security conference with Mr. Scott Noble, and it was amazing to be able to, it's like an SRO convention. Once a year, they get together and they talk about the safety and security needs. I have to be careful with sharing everything. But one thing I do know is it's nice to see how far Osceola County is in safety and security compared to other districts, because one of them, I can't share it because it's public information, one of the police departments didn't even have access to the school cameras. And so when something happens, they're not in real time, and we have that at the school district of Osceola County. All law enforcement officers have the ability to find out what's going on in real time and to be able to protect our staff and students. So just letting you know, that's something that I can really say that we're ahead of it. The other thing as well, the school district in San Antonio was talking about this awesome new program they created about giving students a second chance instead of getting expelled. Well, we had that at New Beginnings, and we've had that at New Beginnings forever. When I was first elected in 2008, and so Mr. Phelps is the deputy superintendent of that program, and we have a diversion program for substance abuse. So those are things that the school district is already doing. But there were two other things. One of them is a vulnerability that we may be open to, but I can't discuss that in public. We'll let the board know about that later. But not at our district, but it's happening nationwide. There's like a new threat that's kind of prevailing, and I'll share it with you guys later. But the other thing that I do want to focus on that they mentioned, and the board has mentioned, is the importance of reentry after the students get suspended. We have to have some kind of contact with these kids. They just can't get suspended for 2 weeks or coming back from an expulsion recommendation and just come back to school like nothing happened. And that's something that they mentioned at the conference. And so I know we spoke with that at the school district, and I don't want to end a positive board member comment on a somber note, but that's just something that I really want to, for us to kind of think about and kind of get a follow-up later on is what are we doing for these students after they come back from an unfortunate incident and make sure that they learn from their mistakes. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Melendez. Superintendent Pace?
Just very briefly, I shared some data with the board during our academic success workshop this afternoon that's kind of hot off the press. And that is our Osceola Prosper results from the class of 2022. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the program, the Osceola County Commission last year agreed to support any graduate of the class of 2022 with full tuition and fees to enroll at Valencia College or Osceola Technical College for either an AA degree, an AS degree, or one of their industry certification programs. And as of now, we have 1,466 graduates from the class of 2022 Osceola County School District who've enrolled at Valencia in either fall of 2022 or spring of 2023. And I'll be excited to be able to bring back data to the board about just how those students are performing. But we've had out of 2,991 course enrollments, only 2 were remedial classes. So super excited about showing college readiness as these students are moving on to take advantage of that free tuition for that initial part of their degree. So I just wanted to share that data. I know several of you have mentioned decision days. I'll be at a couple this week and next week, and it's a super exciting time. Lots of choices for our students, but certainly I know families benefit when the cost is minimal for them to help them bigger things down the future, so.
Excellent, thank you. So now we're gonna move over to our fine arts moment, and that will be led by Madeline Perry, who is a senior from St. Cloud High School and the Arts Alive Scholarship winner.
I was gonna mention that if it wasn't gonna come up, because I saw her before, when she received her scholarship, so.
Amazing, what a treat.
It's great.
While we're sitting up,
Same change.
probably already said it, but these students are from St. Cloud High School. 2 of them won Arts Live Awards, which is awesome. Oh, you already said all this stuff? Cool.
No,
you say
Madeline.
Well,
Just one.
yeah, Maddie won
Hi,
at Arts
Maddie.
Live. Tammy won at Arts Live as well.
So
And then they performed this at State Solo Ensemble and received Superior. So enjoy. And I tried.
District Media Specialist for the proclamation designating April 2023 as School Library Month. Thank you.
Good evening, board, district leadership. I don't really want to follow them. They were amazing. We are so blessed to have such amazing opportunities for our students here in Osceola County. Before we read the proclamation, I'd like to share the winners of the Battle of the Books that happened last week and this week. And for those of you that are not familiar, this is a competition between students across the county who compete around about 15 books, and they answer questions, and they are hardcore. Like, these kids know this stuff back and forth. It is completely amazing. So with that being said, our elementary winner for Battle of the Books is Flora Ridge Elementary. Our middle school winner is Celebration K-8. And our high school winner is Neo City Academy. I'd also like to point out that we have had over 2 million minutes read on Beanstack this year already, and over 452,000 books checked out from our school libraries. So with that, I have Mr. Clark here with me.
All right, so we will read the proclamation for the School Library Media Month. Whereas school library programs are an important asset in the education of the youth of the district, and whereas school library media programs significantly contribute to student achievement by providing instructional support resources and services, and whereas school library centers provide access to information in a variety of formats within the school, as well as to digital resources outside the school, and whereas learning to become effective users of information and ideas is essential as Florida's youth prepare for a future filled with challenges and change. And whereas promoting competencies in using new and emerging technologies is an integral part of school library media programs, and whereas school library media programs promote literacy and the enjoyment of reading, and whereas library media specialists are instructional partners and consultants in the teaching and learning process. Now, therefore, the School Board of Osceola County, Florida hereby proclaims the month of April 2023 as the School Library Media Month.
So moved. Have Mr. Arguello and second by myself. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Next, we have the recognition of Osceola Cooks, student culinary competition, and Mr. Arnott.
Thank you, Board. Thank you, Superintendent and staff. Thanks again for letting us come up here and recognize CT, and thanks for the love that you guys are sharing as well. Basically, we wanted to start something new here in Osceola, and that's kind of like a pre-game before they go off to championships and so forth for the career and technical education student organizations, because we feel that in getting them game day experience here first will make them champions when they go off to state and nationals. We have quite a few going off to states, which we're pretty happy about, and nationals. And we also wanted to we also recognize too, if more students are involved in these clubs, we'll actually have a higher graduation rate, and students stick with these programs longer. So that's some of the great stuff. So anyway, oh yeah, we even bring hardware. We don't play around. So anyway, on April 6, 2023, CTE hosted the first annual Osceola Cooks, a premier event for high school and post-secondary dual enrollment students who are enrolled at the district's culinary and hospitality programs. The event space was hosted by Wyndham Resort and Conference Center in Celebration, Florida. All district culinary hospitality programs were invited, with the following participating: OHS, led by Valerie Woodring, Osceola Technical College, led by Kathy Schneider, Point Siena High School's culinary. We had Brenda Nieves there. Toho High School, led by Bobby Holly, which I believe is here tonight, and Zenith Accelerated Academy culinary, led by Juliana Krajewski. A total of 120 students participated, and 70 competed in 5 different events throughout the day. Local industry experts from Disney World and all over acted as judges and mentors for these events. This event was supported by over 15 local businesses and organizations, including the National Barbecue Barbecue Association, which I did not know existed, and I'm now a member. Prior to the event, we hosted a logo design competition open to all students enrolled in CTE programs. I believe the winner came from Miss Lowe's class at Harmony High School, so they were involved as well. So it was really a nice community effort, and a lot of good came out of this particular event. Tonight we have with us the teachers Bobby Holly, right there you go. I'm from Toho High, and students Jaden Barrios. Jaden, where you at? There you, oh, wow, okay. Kayla Larian, Ariana Marquez is here, and also from OHS, from Miss Woodring's class, we have Nicole Calabayo, Miranda Kunkadal, I believe. Kirkendall, I apologize, I am so sorry. And also, we wanted to congratulate, I know you mentioned it today earlier, Miss Booth, and we want to congratulate Melanie Bezoid, the senior in Miss Woodring's hospitality program, OHS, was awarded the only, the Don and Lorraine Friesberg Fowden Scholarship from the Florida, to the Central Florida Hotel and Lodging Association. That is a full ride worth $40,000 to the Rosen School of Hospitality Management at UCF. So, congratulate these students.
Congratulations.
No. It's going to take a few seconds here. We got all this hardware.
I just want to know how we can taste test judges.
Yeah, I was.
Come on, Gregory.
She has a gift too.
Oh, we got some gifts for everybody. We do. Am I allowed to say?
If you want to show them the
We just want to, we don't have to judge on quality, or we just want to judge.
Just wanna,
See how it tastes.
We got a giveaway. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say gifts or
Oh
not.
my God, how cute.
And those have the logo on it that was made by the student.
We got one for you too, Dr. Beck. Plenty of barbecuing during us.
Thank you very much.
Miss Woodring, you don't need to be taking a picture.
Come on in here, Miss Woodring.
Oh, you'll send them to me? Okay.
There we go.
Move in here, ladies.
Move it in.
Like herding cats. Congratulations, ladies.
Great work, and as they are moving out, we will invite me. Okay, I'm like, Dr. Pace.
Yes, this is a very simple presentation. It's more just simply a recognition of School Bus Driver Appreciation Day. We've already celebrated as a board with the proclamation School Bus Driver Appreciation Week or School Transportation Appreciation Week, but today is the official day. And I want to thank all of those in our schools who took a special time out today to say hello and thank you to their bus drivers and attendants. I know that Mr. Noble and our transportation team were out waving them off this afternoon, and we just can't go by without saying a huge thank you to the individuals who are the first person our children see in the morning and the last person that they see each and every day as we bring them to and from school. So thank you to all the bus drivers, attendants, and transportation staff members out there who help make it possible for us to get kids to and from school safely.
Thank you. We do not have any appointments or transfers at this time, so I will invite Mr. Reinkart from FSBA. Do you have some information for us? Some updates?
Thank you, Dr. Pace, and good evening, board members. I wanted to present to you tonight the list of candidates that came out of your advisory committee. If you recall, this board established a very critical part of their search process to involve the community with establishing a 17-member Citizens Advisory Committee to review the applications that were received and to assist the board in screening those applications down to a certain number that they felt the committee members would send forward that the board should continue to keep under consideration from those candidates to be your next superintendent. The committee was pulled together by the board around the end of March. After that, they were established. Mr. Krupenbacher and Ms. Messina developed a sunshine video training Florida's Government in the Sunshine Law. They reviewed that. We directed them to all of the community forum input that was on your website for them to review to get a feel from what the community input was provided. And from that, they received all of the applications that applied. A total of 32 applicants applied for the position. Between the time they received those applications, reviewed them, did some research, and at our first meeting, they identified 12 candidates for them to keep under continued consideration up until the second meeting, and they continued to do their research on those 12 candidates. At the second meeting, which we held last evening, 6 o'clock here in this room, they identified 12 folks to send forward. It really was amazing how the committee at the first meeting identified a group very consistently from committee member to committee member. The adjustments, there were a couple of adjustments last night on the persons that they finalized to send forward. But before you tonight, I do present as one of your action items a list of those 12 candidates that the committee would like to send forward to you to accept and keep under consideration. So at this point, certainly I can accept any questions, but I would respectfully request that you accept these names that have been sent forward by the 17-member Citizens Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Mr. Melendez has a question, and then Mr. Arguello.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, first of all, I want to thank all the volunteers that decided to do that, because there was a lot of, resumes to look over, and they really took their job serious. I see Dolores McMillan here in the audience. Thank you very much for participating and for your input. Now, I like the fact that we put these forward, and I spoke with Frank also. The only thing I would like to see before they officially convene is maybe they can send back an email. It's just something that they liked about each person. We're not ranking them from like the best to the worst, but just sit there and say, okay, well, what did they like about that person? So we like number 21 because of this, So if each person can kind of give us their feedback on some positive characteristics that they liked, because I do believe people like Dolores McMillan were appointed for a reason, and we like their feedback. And so from here, I don't see like why they like them. I just want them to be able to give us back an email saying, hey, I like number 1, number 11, number 13, and this is what I like about each one of them. And then let us make that determination. But I value the people who were there, and they were selected for a reason. So I kind of would like to know what was the reason why they chose those people. And so that way, when I evaluate these candidates, I could kind of look at, okay, well, wow, okay, that was something that was taken into consideration. Not that it changes my mind 100%, but, I do value their opinion, basically. And so if the rest of the board can agree, I'd just like to be able to have them just respond back with an email saying, hey, this is why I like my candidates that I chose, or whichever one, if they want to say something nice about each one.
If I can interject for 1 second, I don't think that's necessary. I think, and if we had a longer period of time to be able to determine who moves to the next round, I think that would be a great idea. I just feel like we're a little bit pressed for time, and we should just move forward and continue the process with these. Or, of course, we know that we can add other people if we'd like to, but I just feel like it would just add an additional layer of time that I don't know we can afford at the moment.
They don't have to convene. It could just be an email, because they already know why they were there. Because when they had their meeting, they talked about the candidates. I'm just curious as to know just their opinion. It could be. It doesn't have to be a dissertation, no formal paperwork. They can say, I like number 1 because of this. I like number 2. Not the rank number, the number. They identify them by number. Because that's the whole purpose of the committee getting together, not just to give us a list, but what did they like about that person? To me, it's like the ultimate community input at the very end.
Understood, thank you. Mr. Koppenbacher, did you have something to add?
If the board decides to ask for that, I'd ask that the emails go to the Florida School Board Association, and then they would collate them and distribute them to the board members.
And we can give them a deadline. If they don't respond, we tell them, hey, respond by this Friday, and whatever they do, they do. That way, we're not killing the time frame. I'm just curious, because they're valued members. I know that Sue McMillan used to be a principal. Why did she choose her 3 people? Like you said, she didn't have to rank them, but just positive, her feedback, basically, and what she thought was good about those candidates.
Thank you. If we can just put a bow on this issue, is there any other board member who thinks that no, I know, Ms. Argoya, I just want to make sure that we put a bow on his issue before we continue. Is there any other board member who thinks that we should ask for additional information from the committee?
I'm open to giving them like a time frame because I did check our workshop for this for us to make the decision on who our semifinalists is until the 16th. So, we have a little bit of time until then. If we give them a time frame and say anyone willing to offer, I don't think it's we've already asked a lot of them, but I don't see a problem with getting.
Anyone opposed to, okay, it seems like the majority would like to have that information, so if we can just have you communicate that to the committee and then have them deliver by the
Something prior to the 16th, obviously, so that we have some time.
14th maybe.
Or, yeah.
Just remind them what they write is a public record.
Yes.
And this is all, I don't think this should also be necessary, it's not something that we required of
No,
everybody.
optional.
This
Yeah,
is an
optional, yeah,
optional
by
thing.
Friday, May 5th or something.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So if I could, Madam Chair, just so I kind of understand my assignment,
Of course.
I will contact the committee members either probably this evening, provide them with more or less a chart of their top candidates or the candidates that they have sent forward tonight, and ask if they would please make any comments about the strengths of each candidate for your review. And we'll go for the strengths of each candidate, remind them of their comments or public record, and ask that they have that by, I think as Heather said, y'all meet
So
again on the
16th
16th to identify your semifinalists.
Yeah, Friday, May 5th.
So maybe by next Monday, that'll give them kind of a weekend to work on it, if that's appropriate with the board.
Madam Chair, just remind them they're still under the sunshine, and then, Madam Chair, I'd ask that the board vote to conclude their role as advisory board members effective on X date, which is the deadline that you would give them to give it to you. So it automatically expires.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Board Member Arguello.
Yeah, Mr. Reichert, according to my recollection, one of the common themes and threads of all of the community meetings were that we bring someone from the outside. They did not want an insider on these lists. That was something that was said by multiple people at each one of our community meetings. So I would motion to approve this list minus the two people that come from inside the district, because that was the mandate of the community. So I think that would be appropriate, because to do otherwise would be contrary to the very explicit wishes of the community.
Are you asking for an action?
Well, we have to accept this list, right?
Right, so please make a motion so that the board can vote as to whether or not they'd like to accept that.
I thought I just made a motion. Motion to approve this list without the first two names per the requests and mandate of the community.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
No, I do not support that, because I believe the committee had a good recommendations, and I want to honor them. And if we want to eliminate from there, we can eliminate from there. But I'm not going to pre-eliminate them after the community of volunteers got together and submitted that list. And I want to be able to do my due diligence to give everyone an equal opportunity to submit to this position. So I will not be in favor of seconding this motion.
Thank you. Do I have a counter motion to accept the list as submitted by the Citizens Advisory Committee?
My motion to submit the list as submitted by the advisory committee.
Second. I have a motion by Board Member Melendez to accept the list as submitted, and a second by Vice Chair Booth. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-1, and it sounds like you have everything you need to move forward. Is that
Yes,
correct?
and Madam Chair, if I could, the date for which
Oh, May
y'all would
1st.
release from Sunshine would be May the 2nd.
Yes.
If I could give them through Monday to get their information back to me and release on May 2nd.
So you would have a motion and a second to approve that date and the automatic expiration on the date.
I make a motion to approve releasing the committee on May 2nd. Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Cahoon and a second by Board Member Booth. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Thank you.
And Madam Chair, last question, I promise. It would be appropriate, Ms. Krubenbacher, if I let them know that would be the release date?
Yes.
Because they did want to know.
Yeah, they need to know that
Yes.
because of that sunshine law
Yes.
applicability.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you for all your work on this.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Record.
Okay, thank you so much. We will go ahead and recess this board meeting. in order to have a workshop, so we'll go ahead and recess, and Sean has some goodies for us to learn about.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, being the workshop, we're not asking for action on any of these items. I just want to clarify that for the public. We have one proposed new school board rule, 7.85, online educational services agreements or contracts. This would create policy to implement recent revisions to State Board of Education Rule 6A-1.0018, Education Records, Florida Administrative Code, regarding student records within online educational services and requirements for contracts or agreements with third-party vendors to protect the privacy of education records and student personally identifiable information. The next series of changes are all revisions to existing rules. 2.90, tobacco-free and smoking-free environment, revises paragraph 8B to specify Florida Tobacco Prevention Program as a cessation support program. Rule 4.10, the curriculum, updates paragraphs 1, 2, and 3 to comply with recent changes in state law and to provide consistency with district precedent and current practice, chiefly upgrading the language regarding the Sunshine State Standards or Next Generation or Deep Space Nine State Standards, I'm joking, to the Florida Academic Standards. Rule 4.22, Education Media Materials Selection, revises paragraphs 1 and 3 and adds paragraph 2 to comply with recent changes in state law to provide consistency with district precedent and current practice. The State Board of Education rules affected or implemented in this rule would be 6A-1.094124, Required Instruction Planning and Reporting, 6A-7.0713, Elementary School Website Listing of Library Materials and Reading Lists, 6A-7.0715, Certifications and Plans for Instructional Materials and Library Media, and 6A-10.081, Principles of Professional Conduct for the Education Profession in Florida, Florida Administrative Code. Rule 5.62, Administration of Medication, would add paragraph 2B to establish policy related to the maintenance and administration of Narcan per the revisions to sections 381.887, Emergency Treatment for Suspected Opioid Overdose, and 499.003, Definitions of Terms Used in this part, Florida statute. That revision is recommended by our consultants, and it is actually optional, just to clarify. 5.70, Student Records, adds paragraph 12 to reflect recent revisions to State Board of Education Rule 6A-1.0018, Education Records, Florida Administrative Code, regarding threat assessment records. 6.21, District Certificates, revises paragraph 1A to reflect changes within House Bill 1, which was recently passed, that extend the period of a temporary, that's a typographical error that'll be corrected next time, a temporary teacher certificate from 3 to 5 years. That will help us with teacher retention. The next series of proposed changes are for the Code of Student Conduct. It revises the policy document to comply with recent changes in state law and to provide consistency with district precedent and current practice. These revisions were worked on by Ms. Darla Bungo and continued by Dr. Rhonda McMahon, our Director of Student Services. Page 1 revises the title to reflect the new school year and updates the revision date on the title page to reflect the effective date. Pages 18, 20 through 24 revise, this change revises definitions of terms section to reflect changes in state law related to the CESAR report, School Environmental Safety Incident Reporting, and to reflect District Review Committee recommendations. Page 26 revises the standards of conduct for riding a school bus section to require students to scan their school-issued ID badges when entering or exiting the school bus when scan devices are present. Page 28 revises the due process section to add a definition of threat assessments per sections 1001.212, Clause 12, and 1006.07, Clause 7 Florida statutes. Page 30 deletes the clause about 15 days of out-of-school suspensions from the expulsion section. Page 35 updates the statement of non-discrimination to add Dr. Rhonda McMahon as Director of Student Services. And then lastly, the Code of Student Conduct Matrix of Infractions and Possible Consequences revises the policy document to comply with the recent changes in state law and provide consistency with district precedent and current practice, namely updating those codes and things referred to in the changes I just summarized. If you have any questions, Board, I'll gladly take them at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd. I have one question from Board Member Melendez and one question from Board Member Arpaio. Board Member Melendez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually have, 3 specific points. One of them is on the tobacco-free and smoke-free environment. Does that include vapes, or does it have to have vapes with the presence of tobacco? Because sometimes they just have the vape on itself without the
All of the
presence
above. All the above. That language was already approved by the board in that rule. The only thing that we're touching in that rule this time is adding that one cessation program name. So all that you just asked for is in that rule.
Okay. The other item, 2 more items, one of them is on there, one of them's not quite, but I just want to see. Anyway, it's scanning ID cards. We're riding the school bus, because I understand the need for accountability and everything like that. What happens when they forget their ID card or lost their ID card and things like that? Is there like a progressive punishment to say, hey, you get a verbal warning first, and you get a couple, you got to buy a new ID card, because sometimes. I understand the purpose of it, and I support it, but sometimes.
No, I
We
understand.
lose our ID card sometimes. I lose mine sometimes too.
I'll defer that question to Dr. McMahon if you'd like to answer it, or should we get back to the board with the answer?
Get back to, I don't have the matrix in this file.
Okay.
We do have minor infractions for first offenses. Typically, we don't necessarily go straight to expulsion. So in this instance, I will get back with you, but I would imagine that that's what it would be progressive, because we do everything progressive.
Kind of like a uniform school, well, at least what I'm thinking, I haven't read the whole entire thing, I just see the thing there. I'm kind of like school uniforms, where you get like a verbal warning first, maybe something like that, some correction before. If we can just look at that, if you could just present, not right now, I'm talking about when you guys get a chance, if you can update it.
Certainly,
I
sir.
believe the matrix was uploaded into Word docs, but I will certainly send it to you. In that, if you see, it has options that can be done, mandatory things that have to be done. And so all of those things are able to be done for any of those offenses. Not having it right in front of me, I would imagine that there are, certainly minor things that can be done.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it more like a policy document from Dr. Case. Like, if they're like defiant and like 3 times in a row, then are they going to get kicked off the bus? Or is it just the first offense, I just want a uniform policy too, because if something's too discretionary, then it's not equal application of the law. I want the rule to be kind of like, I want there to be a little bit more guidance on that, because I could just see that being a problem. I understand the purpose of it, though. We do want to scan them, we want to take accountability of them. But like, I know one school bus, for instance, just recently at Narcoossee, the entire bus was being loaded at one bus stop. So some of those kids were getting rushed to get on the bus because bad traffic was being backed up. So luckily, R.B. Creech was able to say, okay, let's break that up into 3 bus stops. But sometimes, unfortunately, in Osceola County, the growth is so fast, we got 50 kids loading on the bus at the same exact time, and I just want to make sure that it's just clear.
Mr. Melendez, the matrix is included after page 35. I wonder if you can take a look at that and then give direction if you need further information.
Okay. And then the other thing also, it's not on here, but just something to discuss, because I was at that safety and security conference with Mr. Noble as well, and sometimes we alternately place these kids, at New Beginnings, but sometimes they're violent offenders, and that was one of the exceptions. So even New Beginnings staff needs to worry about their own safety and security too. So, but sometimes if they're a student not in good standing, they're not eligible for Florida Virtual School. So I don't know if we wanted to make an exception where maybe there's a virtual option at, New Beginnings itself, or we allow them to enroll at Osceola Virtual School, so, because sometimes, the other option is just I get to expel them completely. And sometimes it hurts me to expel somebody. I mean, yes, they deserve consequences, but they're getting no academic instruction for 2 whole years. So I want them to not be fully behind in their life and, in the 8 ball. That, again, I was looking at other school districts and they have a virtual option for violent offenders because I'm worried about the safety and security of staff at New Beginnings as well. So if that's something that we could look at, updating our code of student conduct to seeing if we can look at the possibility of a virtual option. And Dr. Pace, your opinion, I value your opinion, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Melendez. We do have the option of using Zenith or Osceola Virtual School in some instances, but please keep in mind that the Osceola Virtual School curriculum, Florida Virtual School curriculum, is very dependent on strong literacy skills because it's independent very much in terms of learning. There is teacher support, but you don't have that one-to-one, and so that doesn't work for all students. So we would have to look at it on an individual basis, just like we do now.
Right, but just at least we can be an option. So, because during the expulsion hearings, we kind of discuss specific things, but at least if I know that as a hearing officer, I know that's at my disposal, then, because I'm always unclear. And I'm about rules, we're talking about rules. I don't want to just be so discretionary, I just do things, capriciously. I want there to be some kind of guidance and say, okay, this is a possibility where we can do this and those. That's it.
Thank you. Board Member Arguello?
Yeah, I'll actually withdraw because of my questions were about the tobacco and the vaping and the issues of the buses when people scan, what happens, that process as well. So if we're gonna do that, then we have to do it well because we're in the danger of sending misinformation to the parents regarding the location of their child. And I could see students trying to manipulate the system, right, for their benefit. So that's all. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I took notes on your requests, and we'll get back to you with answers. Thank you.
This concludes the workshop. We will reconvene for our regular meeting, and we'll start with agenda modifications. I'll start with Dr. Pace.
I have none, ma'am.
Thank you. Board Member Melendez.
12.02 and 13.01. And then I know it's not a usual policy to update new business this quickly, but at one of the board workshops, we spoke about transportation east and west, and I don't think we gave clear guidance. At least I kind of want to bring that up as new business, as to what time frame do we want? Do we want to wait 2 weeks to the next board meeting to kind of give a direction? So I think staff was kind of not really clear what way we're leaning, and if we can have a deadline established to what direction we want to choose. Or if we already know now, we can have the discussion now. But just something to consider on the new business that we need to establish a deadline for the board to give staff direction.
We do not add new business during a board meeting. Would you be able to add that or?
It depends on timing, because we got construction, design, that's what I'm saying, that's what I just said. We normally don't do that. Do you want to make an exception to your board protocol? Because it looks like staff was really looking for what to do, whether or not to go forward with east or west. So I'm asking for an exception to a board established protocol, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Arguello?
8.01, 9.01, 12.02, and then comments on 14.02, 15.01, 15.02, 16.04, and 19.02.
Thank you. I do not have any modifications. Vice Chair Booth? I have none. Board Member Cahoon?
11:01, 11:05.
11:01, 11:05.
For clarification, Mr. Melendez, was your request to give direction to the team with regards to moving forward with a question that was left in a
Workshop this afternoon.
Okay, is there any way that that could be sent via email? We can all send our directions?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Okay, because I would prefer not to break with policy and add anything new, if that's okay with the rest of the board? Yes? Okay, perfect. So based on that modification, we are pulling 11:01, 11:05, 8:01, 9:01, 12:02, 14:02, 15:01, 15:02, 16:04. 1903, 12.02, and 13.01. Did I get that correct? Great, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Booth and a second by Board Member Melendez. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and that brings us to 8.01, Mr. Arguello.
Yeah, so the district has been in the news recently for absolutely the worst of reasons. The violation of the trust of our students and families. I'm not super familiar with all the details of which, but I mean, wow, we have a problem here in Osceola County. I think that that is extremely clear. This is the place most appropriate that I can see. We've had, I think, an extremely large amount of similar to situations where staff or faculty is involved with a student in a completely inappropriate way. There has to be something that we can do. Some of the allegations being made now after the fact that we've seen in the news where people have been going to their administration or staff at school and not receiving the help that they need, further exacerbating the problem, is absolutely atrocious. And Dr. Pace, many times since I've been elected, you have said the buck stops with you. You accept accountability for all of your employees. I mean, I would like to know at what point that's going to happen, because how many employees do we have to have an inappropriate relationship with a student before we have a complete honest plan? We couldn't, at one point in the school board meetings, we could not even define moral conduct. So I think now it's time that we define moral conduct, and it would be great if the district would begin to display some of it, because I'm not sure how many more students we want to victimize. We had students come here to this board meetings and claim victimization of themselves, and we treated them without any true seriousness, in my opinion. So I know as soon as I'm done, somebody's gonna say, oh, well, we did this, we did this, we did. Well, the problem is that the district has no credibility in its investigations, in its practices, in its reactions to problems. It seems the only way that it has, its only mission is to protect itself, but not to protect the students and not to protect the people who work here. And I think that that's the environment, and that's the belief of many of the people who are in the system. So,
What is your recommendation for item 8.01?
I think that we need to come up with a plan to specifically fight these issues and strengthen our, I think 2 years ago almost, you had the Title 19 for victimization of students. That we've had students come here and
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
John, the topic is approval of the personal agenda. I'm not disagreeing about your discussing that topic, but that's not the item on the agenda right now.
Okay, thank you. So here's what I'm gonna say. I think that we need to, number one, we need to be able to define moral character. And if anyone in this district is asked to define what moral character is, they should be able to, as a matter of policy and human resources. We have not been able to do that. We even had a lobbyist for years. I had to fight to get him gone, who had been supporting the illegal sex trade, and members
Mr.
here
Arguello,
fought for
I'm
that.
gonna
So
ask
I would
one
say
more
that
time
we.
before I call the
I'm
question.
making my
What is
point
your
now.
pleasure with item 8.01?
I'm making my point here.
I need you to make a motion for item 8.01. That is the item on the table.
I motion to approve item 8.1.
I think.
I have a
I'm sorry,
motion by
I still
Mr.
have the floor. You
Melendez
can't
and a
just skip
second.
over.
When we have a
You
motion, we
can't just
have to
skip over.
entertain it. If you have a comment, you will make it after I entertain the motion. I have a motion by Board Member Melendez and a second by Board Member Cahoon regarding approval of item 8.01. You have one more chance to make your point and your comment, and then we're voting on this.
I
Mr.
think that we
Arguello.
need to strengthen our human resources policies to be able to direct this. Our failure to act on these issues will further open us up to liability and moral problems of not protecting our students.
Understood. Thank you. Board, all those in favor of approving item 8.01?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Item passes 5 to 1. The next item on the agenda is item 9.01. Mr. Arguello, this is yours as well.
Yes, Ms. Collins, I just wanted to say good luck with this program. With that, I'll motion to approve.
Second. Thank you. I have a motion by Board Member Arguello and a second by Board Member Cahoon. Board, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is 11.01. Board Member Cahoon, this was yours.
I just wanted to highlight the fact that we have amazing donors across the district, and I think this is a action item that people need to take pay more attention to, especially in the weeks to come. I know we've got a lot of people that donate towards the end of the school year because we have a lot of events happening, and I'm just very thankful for the people that come out and support our schools and our staff. And with that, I make a motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion by Board Member Cahoon, second by Vice Chair Booth. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Motion passes. The next item is also yours, Board Member Cahoon, 11.05.
This one, I just wanted to give another little bit of salute to actually one of our former district employees, Anna, who actually went through the process of participating in our small business and veteran business program, and she has now officially, upon our approval of this item, will be receiving her first bid award to participate in the different performing arts apparel and whatnot. This has been a dream of hers. Her daughter is in performing arts, and so it's something that's coming to fruition, and I'm glad that we've had this program in place for her to participate in. So with that, I motion to approve and congratulate Anna on that.
Motion by Board Member Cahoon, second by Vice Chair Booth. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you, Board. I also have item 12.02. I heard it first from Board Member Melendez, and then Mr. Arguello, you also have the floor after.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually agree with the typing, that we're teaching typing in school. The issue that I have is we don't teach kids how to sign their name in school. You don't have cursive. So I'm like, we're teaching them how to type, but we ain't teaching them how to sign. And what a tragedy. And so, and I was confused because they were like, well, it's not a part of the testing standards. I'm hearing some people say it is in the standards. I guess there's different standards because I'm just want some clarity because I heard that there's some standards that are listed in, I don't know which standards because there's different types. I guess one of them isn't tested, but it's still listed somewhere. So can somebody give me clarity on where is cursive in our curriculum? And I would like for it to, if it's not a school year completely, at least teach them the basic alphabet and their numbers. And I want students to be able to sign their name. Kids can't legally sign a document. And I'm just thinking, we're talking about educational institution. I want to teach kids how to sign their name and be legally binding citizens in America.
Thank you. Cursive writing was added back to the elementary ELA standards, Mr. Melendez. It is not a part of the state assessments. They are done digitally. I will check on the specific grade levels. I think Ms. McMahon is looking for that now in CPOMS, but we'll get you the answer either by the end of the meeting or following up with an email.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Arguello, you also had a comment or a question?
Yeah, just in case anybody who's listening out there, you don't need to sign your name in order to be binding on a contract. But, okay, so anyways, I think there is an issue with this contract, and this may be a phenomenal company, but is this really where we should be spending our money on typing? I mean, 99% of our kids are using phones more than they are using computers. I never took a typing class, but I can pretty much email pretty quick. This is $74,000 for 54,000 users. The idea that we're teaching our kids how to type may be somewhat antiquated. And not only is it antiquated, but to the point, I agree that our kids should be learning how to write cursive, but I knew it was already back in the curriculum. The problem is...
It's not being taught. It may be in the curriculum, but it ain't being taught. It's in the standards, it's not in the curriculum.
It is being taught, right? Yeah, okay. So, it has to be taught. So,
But that's not what I was told, unless I'm getting some new information.
From who?
Are we
Who told
teaching
you?
cursive or not teaching cursive?
Yeah. It's in the standards.
I know it's in the standards.
Okay.
I'm just
So-
getting different
Mr.
information.
Wallace, for your comments, I would please let Mr. Arguello finish his comment.
So we're paying 54,000 subscriptions to this company, $74,000. That seems like a lot. We should be using this money. Again, this is just, it seems like we're throwing money at things that we don't need to. Right now, we're coming down to a financial crisis where we don't have money to do this, we don't have money to do this, we don't have money to do this. We're trying to raise money for our students from the parents, but then we're spending money on 54,000 licenses for typing. I just think it's unnecessary and not very good stewardship of our dollars.
Thank you for your comments. Dr. Pace, do you have a comment or a question regarding
Just to
Mr.
clarify, for purposes of the board, in several of my teacher focus group conversations at the beginning of the year, I had those recurring basis throughout the fall and up until December. This came about as a request from teachers. There was a free app. However, there were data security issues in using that free app. And that's why I tasked the team, MITD, Mr. Clark, Mr. Thorne, with looking for something that would provide the level of security that we wanted. Typing is built into the elementary cups as a part of one of the learning stations in ELA. So it's not like they type for the entire class. It's usually 10 to 12 minutes at a time, and then they're moving on to the next station. But certainly we serve at the pleasure of the board in terms of whether or not you want to give this access to our teachers and students or not.
I second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Booth, a second by Board Member Cahoon, and Mr. Arguello, please make a comment before we vote.
Yeah, this is essentially not in the standards. It's not one of the standards that we're teaching. We should be teaching our kids how to write well prior to teaching them how to type poorly. So I just, it's not really something that's necessary. We should be looking at focusing on improving our grades. We just saw some of the academic things. I know that you thought that was a positive story, that when 26 out of 29 of our schools are below, are expected to fall below proficiency. To me, that's not a positive. If our kids cannot write well, we shouldn't be wasting money on typing. They should have spent that extra 10 minutes in class learning how to write well.
Thank you. Board, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Thank you. We're moving on to item 13.01, and that was Mr. Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This contract has a little bit of history, and this was, I keep forgetting if it's US Foods or Cisco, didn't want to deliver food anymore to the individual schools. They wanted to drop it off here at a central location. And then, and that it was due to the pandemic and COVID and things like that was one of the reasons why. And there was a driver shortage. Did they give any indication that that was going to alternate? Is there going to be something like that? Because this sounds like I just want what is the strategic plan? Are we planning to have a central division for food? I mean, if that's the case, are we going to set up a building and set up operations and do it that way? Or, because I remember at first this was like an emergency thing where we had to hurry up and do it. We had to spend a couple $1 million in getting connexes and freezers and put them out there. But at some point, it's not an emergency anymore. And I just wanted like a strategic plan to figure out, okay, what are we doing? You know, how are we going to deliver that food? Do we need to maybe talk to an outside vendor and talk to them about, doing something differently? Because I don't feel comfortable storing a bunch of food centrally, and then we're short on drivers, now we got to drive it from the distribution to the final destination. So those are some of the concerns that I have regarding this item.
Thank you so much. Dr. Pace or anybody else on the team have any comments about this?
May I ask Judith to come
Of course.
forward?
Hi.
Ms. Castillo? Just to
Absolutely.
give us an update on this particular item. I don't think this has to do with distribution.
Good evening. 13.01 is the agreement to serve the charter schools. So those are the sites that we're serving this year. So we extended them to another year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Board Member Arguello, a second by Vice Chair Booth. And just to confirm, do you have a comment?
Yeah, so for follow-up, can they do it as a workshop? Because that is a concern that we have before the contracts come due, because this is something that is going to be a concern. You know what I mean? So even though it's charter schools today, we still got our own contracts that are going to be due soon. Because what happens is we have a tendency to wait till the contract expires, then we have to hurry up and make a decision. So
Understood.
that's what I'm asking for.
Dr. Pace, could we add that to facilities workshop? that
Well, I
conversation.
might just suggest, I know that Mr. Arguello has spent some time with Judith and her team at School Nutrition Services. Ms. Cahoon spent some time with her this week. Perhaps because our workshop schedule is so busy right now, over the course of these next couple of months, we schedule an opportunity for you, Mr. Melendez, to spend an hour with Judith and the team, and then we can come back to that once we get into the summer and into next year. Does that make
You did
sense?
a great job, by the way,
Perfect.
Judith. I enjoyed my time and I
Perfect.
appreciated learning.
Thank you.
Thank you, team. Thank you, Judith. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign? Thank you, team. Mr. Board Member Arguello, you pulled item 14.02.
Well, I just had comments on 1402. So this is for PLCs, and as part of these PLCs, I just wanted to make sure that these arrangements that we have over the summer should be productive, not hostage situations, meaning that we should be prepared with their pay when they happen, because I know that there's been lots of delays. We seem to always have problems with pay for these types of efforts on behalf of our teachers and staff. An example of this is the civics issue that I know that you spoke with Gail, and she was describing that process where she wasn't getting paid and so on and so forth. So I received a lot of complaints last year during the summer when they were going, and they weren't receiving their money in a timely fashion. So I just wanted to ensure that we were ready and prepared and able to deliver the pay in an appropriate time as opposed to late.
Thank you for your questions. Dr. Pace?
Just to respond, Mr. Arguello, yes, I have tasked the team with making sure that we have a plan in place to handle payroll on a monthly basis over the course of the summer, so we should not have that same recurrence in September. And regarding civics, part of that delay has been when we get the money from the state. We get a list, then we have to wait for the money to come down, and then we're getting it immediately into the hands of the teachers who are finishing that program.
I think the concern is the amount that they're receiving from that $3,000 amount, not the timelines, as far as I know.
I'm happy
Are
to
there
show
larger
you,
concerns?
happy to show you the breakdown of the taxes.
Thank you. Board?
Make a motion to approve.
It's an informational.
Oh, sorry.
That was my fault, so not
I did
y'all.
the same thing to me.
I know, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. It looks like you also pulled item 15.01, Board Member Arguello.
Yes, I wanted to ask, so there's an AP annual conference down here at the bottom. We're spending $20-something thousand to send our people there. And it's described as discover proven methods for increasing equity and access to the AP program. Neo City and Oxa will be presenting at the conference. Can I get a definition on the word equity? I know that this district doesn't like to have definitions on hand, but I'd like a definition for that. Or what is the intent? Would you define that, Dr. Bates?
The intent is to ensure that we're providing opportunity for all students who qualify who show demonstrated advanced placement potential via the PSAT or through other means of test scores, teacher recommendation to participate in a rigorous academic program.
Were we not doing that before?
It's something that we've continued to work on. In 2017, the district was awarded an AP distinction because of increased minority participation and performance in our advanced placement program. With the diversity in our district, we continue to make sure that our classes represent the demographics of our district.
Okay.
Motion approved.
Second. Motion by Board Member Melendez, second by Board Member Cahoon. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Thank you. 4-1. You also pulled 1502, Mr. Arguello.
Yes, I just wanted to say Godspeed and God bless to the boys wrestling team of Harmony while they go to the University of Iowa wrestling camp in June, and the St. Cloud High School FCCLA in July. So guys, God bless, take care, be careful. And with that, motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Board Member Arguello, second by Vice Chair Booth. Board, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign? Thank you. Board, we have to items 16, one by one, since we did pull at least one item that I can see.
Motion approved, 1601.
All right. Motion by Board Member Melendez, second by Vice Chair Booth. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank you. 1602.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Board Member Cahill, second by Board Member Melendez. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Think 1603.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Booth, second by Board Member Melendez. Board, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Okay, motion passes. That brings us to 1604, and that was Mr. Arguello who pulled it. What is your comment or question, please?
Yeah, this is in regards to the St. Cloud High School turf. So my question is, the community has expressed some concern and confusion regarding grants on this project. So are there grants that are going to repay the district for this project?
There is a $965,000, I don't remember the exact number, grant from the Osceola County Commission towards this project. The team is currently seeking other grants that could also move toward the project. We've also shown you in the workshop today the difference between the cost of this program to the district compared to the cost of the program at the Celebration High School turf field back in 2016 for comparison purposes.
Okay, so for one, we just had a workshop today where the quarter penny tax was not enough to pay for two desperately needed facilities, that we're gonna use $1.8 million of the quarter penny tax to put in a stadium, which is actually okay. It's not like the same situation as Celebration, which was a severe flooding problem. So we're gonna use $1.8 million, which could be used to build the buildings that we're doing here, because we had a county commissioner who did a bait and switch, who offered us $1 million for a project, and now the project is costing us almost $3 million. So this is basically putting us into like this Neo City-like failure of a problem in bait and switch. I don't appreciate it. It's just so another politician can put his name on a stadium. It's grotesque. We should absolutely not be funding problems like this when we can't fund. If the district is coming and saying that we need to cancel projects because we don't have the money to do projects, and then we get projects like this, where this is a football field which does not need to be replaced. We just want to make it fancy with AstroTurf. This is like if you had the teenager your budget, this is how they would manage it. It's absolutely incredible that we would even consider doing this just so that a politician can get his name on a building. And that's not me saying it, that's per the contract that we signed with the county for this $965,000, that we basically gave them all the rights to put a big picture of the county commissioner on this building. It's really terrible. I know that Arnco is a phenomenal company. They are great. I've been on work that they had. It's not about them. This is just about being a horrendous steward of the money, and this is why the community does not trust us with a quarter penny tax or with a 1% tax or anything else, because we make decisions like this, and we just throw money away. That quarter penny tax can go to 1 million different projects which actually improve learning, and this is instead gonna go to somebody's, somebody's alma mater.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Melendez, did you still have a comment?
Yeah, the grant, so I see 2.1 million. Now, does the grant lower the 2.1 million minus 900,000? Or is it 2.1 after the 900,000 was deducted? Okay, yes, so it's gonna end up being like 1.4, okay. Yes, and so, well, it's not every day you get a grant to participate in something, so you're talking about, and this has, at the workshop, I don't know if you were there, Mr. Aguero, they said this also includes upgrades to drainage system, for the water system to go down, and they were also looking for extra community grants that were available for the maintenance of the field too, because whether or not we upgrade the field, there's always maintenance costs involved in a field. So, we are doing things in Celebration, also believe in equity of funding. you know, what you do for one school, you should try to do it to another school as well. So it doesn't look like it's only one side of the county getting all the attention. So I don't, you know, again, it's not every day that you do get a grant, regardless of where that grant comes from. But the reality is, it's a grant that came in, and it's a ball field that's getting upgraded, that's having increased drainage systems. We just had a ball field just last week, I think, Toho High School, and we had to go back to the CM and redo all that, and it cost us all this money. So sometimes you don't wait till it becomes a disaster before you upgrade it. So, so far, I don't see a real reason not to support it, other than the fact that it just got grant money attached.
Thank you. I have comments from Board Member Cahoon and then Board Member Arguello. Board Member Cahoon, you're recognized.
I just want to say I had a thoughtful conversation with the athletic director from St. Cloud High, Mr. Smart. I don't know if he wants to speak today as well. I know we've invited people up before. He spoke at our workshop earlier, but I don't think you were in attendance during that part, Mr. Arguello. In regards to the fact that this was something Mr. Smart actually, from his time joining St. Cloud High, went out and was a top priority of his in doing at the school there. So learning that story and hearing that it was something that he's been going, he said, not door to door per se, but to community partners to get some kind of support in that fact, and that he was the one who reached out to different commissioners and other partners and finally got a call back saying, I want to help you with this. I think that shows that he's really committed to that school and doing things that will benefit the students, and that's what we're all here for, is benefiting our students in the best ways we possibly can. So I appreciate the fact that you called to have that conversation with me, and hope that other board members can hear that when needed. I make a motion to approve this item.
Second. We have a motion by Board Member Cahoon, second by Vice Chair Booth, and we still have one comment. One more comment before we vote. Mr. Arguello.
Yes, thank you. Number one, I don't know how Mrs. Booth can vote on this because this is her husband's check to the district through his thing, so that should be a conflict of interest. Also, the company that's building this gave her $1,000 contribution, which is more than the $200 that makes it of an issue. I think that that's a terrible demonstration of transparency for you to vote on this issue, number one. Number two, when you have a car that needs to be repaired and you have let's say the alternator goes bad, you don't take the alternator out of your car and then tell them, oh, you know what, never mind, I'm gonna buy a new car. That's the same thing. The field in St. Cloud is okay to play on. There's no issues with the field. They can still play on it. It's not like Celebration, which the field was underwater. That's two completely different scenarios. One was preventing the students from playing, one is not, number one. Number two, this is a demonstration of favoritism to one school. You have a politician who got $1 million from taxpayers. He's gonna take that $1 million and go use it in his community. Okay, they do it all the time, right? I don't agree with it, but politicians do that kind of stuff all the time. So now, we're gonna give that $1 million. So we could take that $1 million and we can improve, we can go and fix the ESE problem that we have in our schools by building a new facility that all of our kids could use where we could offer them services. And then we can provide a support for all the ESE team. All those people that were here today, they could use a $1 million facility and we wouldn't have to put in another $1.8 million. Instead, what we're doing is we're gonna go and do a ball field. I played high school football. Don't get me wrong, I love it, okay? But at the same time, I know better as an adult that you don't take candy from a stranger and go put it towards this use. That's what this is. This is pure favoritism. It's, hey, I'm the big dog in St. Cloud, I'm gonna give you stadium, and then he's gonna use taxpayer money to go win his re-election. That is just a gross misuse of public funds. It is absolutely disgusting. It is disgusting. And then to put it in the contract with the county and the school district, that, oh, well, we get the naming rights for this and whatever, and blah. Yeah, just like we did at that pool in Poinciana. Now I have to drive past the pool to look at a giant sign there of a politician. Nobody wants that, number one. And number two, it's a gross misuse of funds for this. That school does not need, that school does not need, that school does not need $1 million for the field. It does not need it. We are wasting that $1.8 million. And I just want to say for you, sir, I think great job. If I were the athletic director, I absolutely, I would continue to do exactly what you did. You did great. And that's what you should do.
We're gonna go recess.
If you're-
We
if
are
you are-
recessing the meeting.
If you
The meeting
are
is in recess.
an athletic
Cut the
director,
cameras.
you did the
It's
perfect
recess.
job. You get an A plus. Us as board members.
We are reconvening our meeting and had a request from our attorney to clarify something.
Yes. Two things, Madam Chair. First, I was asked prior to tonight's meeting to research the issue of whether or not Ms. Booth had a conflict. She has no conflict under Florida law. The grant is coming from the county, not from an individual. She has no economic interest in outcome of that. She's not tied to the company that's being awarded the contract. So pursuant to the Florida Ethics Code, which is the law, there's no conflict.
Can you speak
Second.
to the microphone? I can't hear a word you're saying. I'm sorry. Thank you.
The second item is, as the parliamentarian, the effectiveness of a government operates by following processes. And whether you like one another, you have a responsibility to respect each other, just like I have a responsibility to respect each of you, whether I agree or don't agree, or with any citizen, whether I still give them the respect. Our process calls for a person to chair the meeting. I would ask you to follow the future practice. If the chair says, I'm calling the question, and you don't agree, or wants to silence you, then respectfully, you can ask the board to override the chair and keep talking. But you have to respect that position. It's not about the person in the role, it's the position in the process. And I bring that up because, folks, we're role models for a lot of people who watch this, and they need to grow up understanding you follow a process. You may not like it. You may not like an elected official. The process is you get them out via the voting, et cetera. So I would just ask us to remind everybody on the board to please try and follow that process. And if the board wants to say, we don't agree with the chair, keep talking, so be it. The second thing is, and I've been reminding board members on this, under Robert's rules, you speak to what the agenda item is. Okay,
Was that all?
that's it, thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Melendez, you did say you have a, but I don't have you on here. So I just want to remind you, I'm going to give the time to Mr. Arguello, who did have his light on. Mr. Arguello.
Yeah, so if there is no legal conflict, and I would disagree respectfully with that, there is a moral conflict, right? I mean, how many, to be able to vote on your spouse's agenda items and somewhere else is the same thing. And I will file an ethics complaint on this issue. However, the problem with this board is that it chooses when and if. These votes are meaningless. They're absolutely meaningless. That's the problem. So, like you said, Mr. Krobenbacher, there's a process. But if you can't buy into that process because that process is corrupt and that's what this process is, this is a sham. We know how all of these votes are going to go ahead of time. From now on, what I'm going to start doing for the public is I'm going to make a website that just says, this is how everybody's going to vote on this. This is how everybody's going to vote on this. And let's see with what percentile I come in correct on that. And everyone will see. You should not be able to do that, right? So it's a sham. I play along, right? Because I come here and I advocate on behalf of the community every 2 weeks, right? And it has cost me dearly, but I'm going to continue to do that. So we can play along, but there's only so much I'm going to play along. There's never going to be a time where I'm going to put the comfortability of the people behind this dais ahead of the community. I'm just not going to do it.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Melendez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have the document in front of me, but I could have swore that I saw it on the capital improvement plan, or capital plan, right? When we have like a 5-year projection, we put different things that we're gonna do, like the St. Cloud, I remember a high school wing renovation was there. Dr. Pace, was this item on the capital plan?
Yes, it was.
So, because I'm saying I don't have the best memory, but I remember looking at that, and I don't have the document in front of me. So this isn't something that just magically occurred just because we got a grant. Now, it was on our capital plan, and that's politics. Yes, we're able to go and get a grant to help mitigate that cost. But to insinuate that this was some behind-the-scenes cloak and dagger type thing is just not accurate. I just want to put that out there. And I agree with Mr. Arguello sometimes I don't. But unfortunately, I just want to know that we looked at this capital improvement plan, and we put there different projects on there, and this is one of those items that was itemized. Now, it wasn't itemized with the fact that there was going to be a grant attached. If there's a grant, then there's a grant. Great. It saves the district some money. So for me, I'm okay with voting to support something that was already in the capital improvement plan that we as a board had voted to approve back in the beginning of the year when we approved the budget.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-1. And I will entertain a motion for the next item, which is 16.05.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Booth, second by Board Member Melendez. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Thank you. 1606.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Board Member Melendez, second by Vice Chair Booth. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign?
Motion approved, 1607.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Melendez, second by Board Member Cahoon. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, thank you for being patient, team. We will go ahead and convene now with the public comment section. And LaShawna, you are up.
Hey, y'all. Keep that tension off. You know, how y'all doing? My name is LaShawna Ward. I'm at, what's my address? 226 Pine Valley Road, can't remember the rest, St. Cloud, Florida. I am standing on behalf of the ESPs as well as myself. I am standing because I just want to inform you, if you have not already known, your ESPs are valuable. We are so much valuable. When your teachers are not there, we are there. We are doing our job as well as assisting our teachers in making sure our students are safe and they are learning, still learning when the teachers are out. We are asking that you take in consideration of the value that you have for all your ESPs. When we are sick, runny nose, cold, we're not staying home. We're going to work and making sure you have a body in that room. We just want to make sure that, and to let you know that with us, you have a great team. Without us, our children loses, our children suffers, and we don't want to suffer. We're here for the children. We're here just to make sure that we are all working together. My principal always says this, our motto is lead. Lead by example, encourage others, always show respect and demonstrate excellence in all that you do. So as a Mustang, I ask, as well as an Osceola County staff member and ESP, please take in consideration with us on when you do financial, when you're doing every type of different kind of salary or anything, just taking in consideration that when they call out, you don't have enough subs to cover them. You only have your ESPs. Thank you, and you have a good night.
Thank you. Sammy Fitzgibbon.
My name is Tammy Fitzgibbon. I live in Kissimmee, Florida. I just want to read this little story that I have. It says there were some kids who wanted to see a movie that had just a couple things in it that was bad, but their dad wouldn't let them. They thought it was so unfair, so to judge a whole movie over one small part. So the next night, Dad surprised them by baking them a tray of brownies. Right before the kids started to eat them, the dad said, "Before you eat these brownies, I need to let you know I took just a little bit of our dog's poop and put it in the mix. Now it's a tiny little bit, and the rest is fine, and you'll hardly notice it." The crazy thing was, the kids wouldn't touch it. In fact, they said the whole batch should be thrown in the trash. But Dad said, "I don't understand. It's just a little bit of poop. The tiniest bit. It's probably not even in the bite you'll take. It certainly doesn't ruin the whole thing." After the kids explained to him in detail how that little tiny bit of poop ruined the whole tray and made it garbage, he said, "And that's why you don't watch movies with just a little part that displeases God. It ruins the whole thing." The children silently walked away. They finally understood. Remember, deception is 99% truth with 1% error. So that being said of my little story, the school books that we have in our libraries, Teresa made a comment saying, well, it's just a little bit of the book that's bad, but the book's pretty good. So I made these brownies. Would you say this about the brownies?
I'll eat them if there's nothing in them.
You do too.
The point is the books are garbage. You wouldn't eat these if just a little bit was in here? Why have the books in the library if they're disturbing like they are? And then what blows my mind is you guys complain about the kids doing all this stuff in the schools, but then you have the books in the library. Wake up.
Anna Muse?
Ann Muse, 1680 Taylor Ridge. I'm here to talk about the school board superintendent. The only thing that you guys should be considering is he has to have a background, or she has to have a background in finance. Just this meeting alone tells me that you have no idea what things cost. If a field costs $2.1 million, and you only get $975,000, you still have to come up with a difference. And you can't pay your teachers. You can't give them raises. So why, if you discussed this 5 years ago, maybe your plan was better. Maybe you didn't think you were going to be in debt. But you got to change with the times. You need good, qualified teachers. You need to pay them. My suggestion to the board is to hire somebody that has good financial background. And I would say set up a parent committee with people that have a background in finance, because you need help. You really need help. Thank you.
Joanne Colonna?
Good evening, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Because when you talk, I can't hear you, so I want to make certain. 4701 Ashton Drive West, St. Cloud, Florida. This is an alert to all the parents. Racial prejudice and discrimination against social and political views, the woke movement began. This began before 2014 as a part of BLM movement. And we now see the curriculum in these schools using this to brainwash our children to believe in the woke agenda. Mr. Sanchez's daughter, who I spoke about last time, which nobody ever bothered getting back to him, is an example of a student being taught about prejudice against Republican Party, prejudice against persons of different races. This agenda spews discrimination against people, politics, religion, and respect of our American values. We will not go away. We will not keep quiet. And we will continue to fight for the American dream of our children. Life, liberty, freedom of speech, and religion until we bring these teachings back into this classroom. You have failed your students. You have failed our forefathers who are aware of the evil setting around them way back in that time in schools and churches. Douglas MacArthur quote, "No man is entitled to blessings of freedom, knowledge, unless he be vigilant in the preservation of its people." Children are our future. They are entitled to make their own decisions through education, not being forced by teaching an individual's beliefs. The attorney that was going to contact Mr. Sanchez, who you called a whistleblower, and I take offense of that. He is a concerned parent. You know, the apples don't fall far from the trees, and just because there's a bad apple doesn't mean all the teachers are. But this teacher needs to be looked into, and I hope this time that I'm up there, you look into it. Otherwise, you'll see me back here.
Thank you. Nellie Hernandez?
Z Nelly Hernandez, because there's another Nelly Hernandez. I don't want to be confused and take her credit. That's what happens, yeah.
Okay.
I'm being made popular, and I'm not that popular. So, good evening. 2929 Moonstone Bend, Kissimmee. I want to start by thanking Mr. Aguero for trying so hard to be an effective representative of his district and caring enough to suggest the book purchase process be revisited, among other important things that we, the community, care about. However, the rest of the board members do not seem to care enough about our concerns regarding the process currently used to purchase school library books. This process is clearly not working, yet when Mr. Aguelo proposed to revisit such process last meeting and suggested a system that is more transparent, we heard cricket, cricket, cricket from everybody else. All 4 members do not care enough to back him up. We are mostly disappointed by the newly elected members, the rent and parental rights. And I know for a fact that many people of faith voted for them because they believed what they were saying in their campaign. The fact that such books made it to the school says it all. The fact that they made it to the school in the first place says it all. The book review process currently in place is not acceptable and is not working. We must revisit the purchase process. This issue is not political, it should not be political, but it is definitely good versus evil. What we see happening with our children in schools and teachers is good versus evil. If you haven't heard it that way, I'm telling you tonight. This is not political, it's evil, okay? What is happening to our children is pure evil. And the question is, on which side will you stand? Because you are creating a legacy. Mostly, everybody else except Mr. Aguelo. Thank you.
Blair Allen?
Hello, good evening, Larry Allen, 722 Mabbitt. We're all here tonight with the express purpose of giving our kids their best shot at success and becoming productive citizens. I want to take a moment to remind us of the role our education staff professionals play in that. Oftentimes, they're the first adult other than family that our students engage with in the morning and the last one they see before we return them to your custody. I want to mention a few of the ESPs that have had an impact in my life in hopes of reminding you how they may have impacted your lives also. Back in the late 70s, Mr. Grady was my bus driver, and he should be in the Hall of Fame because he didn't take any guff off of anybody. He knew everybody's parents, they grew up together, and that was enough to keep me out of trouble on his bus. Many people can't navigate 192 safely by themselves, but he did it with 30 or 40 rowdy kids. When I was in school, one of my favorite classes was lunch. The food service workers at Highlands Elementary took care of me, but I especially remember the ones at Central Ave Elementary because they were like my second, third, and fourth mamas. I just remember them loving on me, you know. I still appreciate that. And a special shout out goes to Miss Bootsy Holt. She was my favorite. Before there was the internet, there was Bootsy Holt. Can't take those off. When I had kids, I had enough confidence in my school custodian that I hired his wife to babysit my children. I can't remember if it was Deerwood or Discovery, but they took care of my kids. And I didn't worry about any harm coming to them. And I think I was at Mill Creek Elementary when I let Cheyenne and Dakota go to the after-school program at Chambers Park. After-school program or summer camp, I'm not sure which one it was, but I do know that Miss Shirley was one of Dakota's favorite people on the planet. She spent a lot of time instilling sound values in my daughter and my son, and for that I appreciate her. I wonder how many hundreds, if not thousands, of students in Osceola County know Mama Scipio. Mama Sip has been a cornerstone in the ESE department at Discovery Intermediate School. She has always stepped up. She has given her time and her heart to these students to make them better people, especially when there was no certified teacher in that room. What I'm saying is sometimes we get hung up on job titles and the number of degrees or lack of degrees that people possess. Sometimes we overlook how much they pour into our students, which is really pouring into our community. So let's not continue to overlook our ESPs. Thank you.
And last, we have
Okay, Angelica McKinney, 7060 Branch Court. I submitted a public records request last week on how many district employees have been let go because of sexual misconduct. I did receive a list, however, it looks a little incomplete. I guess it was my fault that I didn't say it wasn't just the ones that made the news. But I will leave it like that. Now, there is something that you guys really need to do, and it's those two companies that is in charge of the background checks. They need to be let go. And there is one that you guys can actually work with. It doesn't matter how much it's gonna cost, but you guys need to do it, because I'm sure what they do is way better than what you guys are using right now. And you can call them, it's 407-348-1100, and you are gonna ask for Sheriff Marcos Lopez. He is actually ready to work with you and present to you what he uses actually for his staff and everything there. So you guys can take the first call you want to, and take the initiative and call him. I know the conversation is gonna happen regardless if you are the ones that do it or not, because I know he's gonna reach out to you, you guys don't do it. So at least be the first one and at least show that you guys care. But he's gonna do it, and I'm gonna make sure that I know what the results are, because once that happens, we're gonna make sure that you guys actually go with what he has to offer, because what you guys are using doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we do not have any additional public comments, so we will move on to attorney's issues and Mr. Koppenbacher.
Yeah, let me just address that one thing. As part of the HR process, everybody who applies and is offered a job at the district is run through the FDLE database, which provides us everything the Florida Department of Law Enforcement has, including the FBI background on the employee, right? There's then reference checks done. So I will tell you, I have handled the termination of far too many inappropriate contact with students in my career. I hate these people, all right? That said, I'm gonna call Sheriff Lopez, because one of the things I did want to speak to after Mr. Arguello raised it, I will come back to the next board meeting. I personally trained some 15,000 educators in Orange County and went from school to school after we had 2 serious molestation cases. So I have a very aggressive viewpoint on almost pounding it into people's heads what the rule is and what you do. So I'm gonna get with the superintendent and I'll come back to you. Our numbers, I can tell you, there's a district do work with that averages more than 36 of these a year reports. And what I want to emphasize to anybody watching this or here, 99.9% of our teachers and employees in schools are phenomenal, dedicated people. Unfortunately, that one rotten apple hurts everyone, and that's why I think there are 2 reasons it's critical for us to be very aggressive on this. One is the most important, to protect our students, but the second is to protect the reputation of our good employees.
If I can interject, and I know that 2 board members have comments, but I don't have a light, so a moment of privilege, board. If the board agrees, I wouldn't mind having a workshop with Sheriff Lopez if he has some ideas about what we can do and things that we haven't considered. I mean, is that something that's acceptable to the rest of the board, or?
Could I report back first and find out what he has?
Sure.
I don't think you want a workshop, and I think, first of all, we have a safety advisory committee. I think maybe we have the sheriff meet with those people, if he has ideas, and let us talk them through before we, I have a real aversion to people making public displays on this issue, all right? to somehow help themselves publicly. And this is where you roll up your sleeves and you say, are we doing everything we need to do? And I'd like to know what he suggests we do that we're not doing. Because I've dealt with this for so long for so many districts. Yes?
Yeah, because I was confused a little bit, because there's a difference.
Speaking turn?
Yes,
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, yeah. Because, I'm sorry, Frank, I was addressing Frank because he was looking at me as well. So I apologize, Madam Chair, if I spoke out of order. Because I was a little bit confused what she was saying, because it sounded like she was saying that he has a better mousetrap for background check, not for addressing the issue when it's at hand. When in reality, the sheriff does the same background check, they go to the FDLE and the FBI. So unless he has because the sheriff doesn't do the background checks themselves, they outsource it out themselves. They don't have like a special database. So I'm just want to make sure. So she was asking to talk to the sheriff to have them do the background checks for us, not to give us a strategy on how to prevent people from committing crimes against stuff. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
Ours comes from FDLE.
Yeah, it comes from the FDLE and the FBI, which is the same thing
Now,
with the sheriff.
I will tell you, there is one issue with international teachers. The databases with foreign countries are not necessarily in the databases of the FBI or the state. And some countries don't have databases, and other countries do. So where we get them from is critical. Just like where you buy pharmaceuticals, you get them from a developed nation. You don't get them from
I'm good,
a
Madam Chair.
country that's not.
That was
So
my clarification.
I will bring this back to the board at the next meeting. I want you to know, because based upon what recently happened, I got a call and I followed up, and thank God found out that what was reported actually wasn't accurate. But we've got to be aggressive on this.
Okay, Mr. Argoyo has a comment as well.
The issue is that we've had multiple allegations of staff ignoring the problems that come before them. That's an issue, and
It's part of the training.
when that happens, that is a problem of leadership, right? That is a cultural problem. So when people are ignoring students coming, that is a problem that points right at this dais. That is not a problem of background checks or anything else. Everyone in this room knows that we are mandatory reporters, right? Everyone on a school site knows that we are mandatory reporters. If there's a reason that people are ignoring the problem, that is a leadership issue explicitly. Explicitly, that is a leadership issue. That's what I'm looking for. We have not had one time since I've been elected, since I've been sitting here, not once have we ever had somebody come in and say, you know what, we have a problem, and then they pass it off to you, Frank, or they pass it off to the superintendent, and we come back and we say, you know what, we found out that was substantiated, and that's a real problem, and we're gonna fix it.
Mr. Arguello, that's
Hold
not
on.
accurate.
Well,
I'll tell you where.
Please remind me.
We had parents.
But let me finish
we had
first.
students come here.
Yes, exactly, and so we told them, what was it that we told them? We told them those claims were not
That's
substantiated.
not true.
Okay, so what was it?
We had students come from ACA that reported concerns to us. Do you remember it, board? They went online, everything, all right? I personally went out there, met with the administration, we implemented training, we put in a hotline for people to call and report anything wrong, and we've not had further reports, and we reminded everybody, that the administration and deans, if somebody comes to you and makes this type of report, it's immediately to do the following, and if you don't do it, you're gonna get fired. That's what, hear me,
And then it
that's
happened
what
at
has to be
Celebration,
told
right?
to people. If you find
So-
out you didn't do your job and report it, you don't candidly.
But that,
but
here's the
But
problem.
we did react, and the board did take
So
steps.
here's the problem, is that we say that so we reacted in that specific
We need
scenario.
to do it across
Okay,
the district.
I would love to see, well, but why haven't we?
I did.
Why would that even be a question? How could I was elected 2 years ago. How can it even be a question? Why is it that our staff doesn't understand what to do in that scenario? Why is it? Why is it that we have so many issues?
I think they do, because I see
Allow
the
me to
amount
finish
of
though,
reports
please.
going.
Allow me to finish. The issue is, we have problem after problem after problem. People come here and they say, this is an issue. And we always have the same reaction. Okay, no problem, we'll get back to you. and then we never hear about it again. It gets swept. It's the same with our grades. It's the same with assessor complaints. It's the same with practically everything. And why? Because we have a culture here where some people get away with anything. Some people get away. There's always, this district does, its number one priority, it's covering its own butt. That's its number one priority. And that's the problem that we have. And that's a culture that's been made here, it's been here since I got here, and it's a problem that's gonna persist until the people actually assume leader. First of all, if it were me, I may be the worst superintendent in the world, but if it were me, it wouldn't take me more than a millisecond to speak up and say, you know what, we're gonna address that problem right now, we're gonna take care of it, here's the update, here's what happened, here's what we did, it'll never happen again, and every single person in my district is gonna know exactly what the role is and what the policy is. But we have a lapse, a void of leadership that provides these people with no guidance to either excel academically or to perform or to make their appropriate assessor complaints or anything. And it's hard to come here every 2 weeks and people have problems and nobody, it's just like it's no big deal. It's no big deal. I'm outraged every 2 weeks. We have kids that come here and they come all complaints, all kinds of things. I get calls all the time from students. And we do so little and it's just a void of leadership.
In defense of the employees, the amount.
This is not an employee issue. This is a leadership
Stop.
issue.
You're
And I've
saying
said
they're
that.
not doing their jobs.
No, this is a leadership issue, and I've said it multiple
Right, I'll
times.
say it again. The amount of DCF reports, law enforcement interactions going on a weekly basis, where our employees are in fact stepping up and saying we were told X and Y, all right, and turning it over to them is overwhelming. Now, that's not to say that out of the thousands of people we have in schools, everybody's perfect. All we can do, I'm saying, is reaffirm everything and emphasize it.
We should be transparent with the community, and we should be telling them what's going on in this district.
Thank you. Mr. Melendez, you have a comment as well regarding this issue?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Gore may have a point to a certain degree on one thing, and I would like to see an investigation specifically on Celebration, because what I saw in the news reports were that multiple students had made a comment, and whether or not it was addressed or not. So I would like to know, as a
That
school
is
board member,
underway right now.
are we doing an investigation to find
Yes.
out who received those comments and who did not act
Yes.
on that information?
Yes.
And I hope that, to Mr. Arguello's point, once we do our investigation, because law enforcement can do theirs, because that's not really, well, law enforcement can do theirs, we can still do our own internal, and find out which employees did not respond to a student complaint. And we better have a consequence for those
Mr.
employees.
Melendez, the day
Can I
after this.
have Miss Dr. Pace answer, because she has her light on? I don't know if we're gonna
That's
say the
the end of my
same thing,
comment,
but she does have a comment regarding this. Is that okay?
We received the initial news report on Thursday evening. Nothing from law enforcement. I followed up with law enforcement to see if they were actively investigating any of our employees for failure to report. They said no. We followed up the next morning with the particular employee identified. We've taken a written statement, followed up again with law enforcement, and that matter is still not under investigation. And the sides of the story were very different. We are cooperating with law enforcement, but we did follow up on our own to nail that down as best we can with the one employee who was reported to have not reported something. And on a regular basis, if we get evidence that someone potentially failed to report, that is an immediate call to both DCF and law enforcement. Every single year, every employee in this district completes mandatory ethics training, which includes mandatory reporting to DCF and law enforcement in the event that someone has potentially caused harm to a child. And with all due respect, I've had to remind board members that we are all mandatory reporters, and I've reported to DCF on their behalf. Just last night, I had an email from a charter school claiming a potential concern. I reported it immediately to DCF and forwarded it to law enforcement. Those are standard ongoing procedures.
So you know, when we get a report like this, we don't interview any of the students until law enforcement clears and says you can talk to them. So we don't want to be, one, we don't want to damage a child if there's, you limit the amount of interviews, particularly to a victim. Two, we did, last Thursday, we learned about the release of the documents, I read them. I called Dr. Pace at home and said, tomorrow morning, first thing, have people out at the school interviewing this employee. If they still work for us, if not, I contacted HR and said I want the personnel file and every file there is at the school on this particular employee that was arrested, is no longer an employee. And we've been running it down, all right? We gave it to law enforcement, what we learned immediately. I won't go into it, other than there are two sides to the story, obviously. And we are tracking it very close. These cases are the highest priority the district can have. Putting aside the fact it's the lawyer, I think in terms of injury lawsuits, but the reality is this is about a child. So we'll keep you posted on it.
Yeah, my follow.
Okay, one second, Mr. Melendez, Mr. Arguello's first, and then you. Mr. Arguello, you're recognized, then Mr. Melendez.
So how can we say, or how can we with a straight face say that we're trying to protect our kids when people on this day has fought so hard to protect someone who had supported the illegal sex trade, right? Those things are counter to one another. The people in leadership of this district fought hard to have a lobbyist who supported the illegal sex trade. Does that say we are trying to protect our students? It shows the level of hypocrisy, that the shameless hypocrisy that this district is willing to do. That's what it does. You can't, here's the thing, nobody can fake true, genuine concern for people. You can't fake it, but you can try.
Thank you, Mr. Melendez, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Trying to put a level head on this without any personal attacks. Again, I know it's a news story, and I know there's multiple sides to a story, but when I read that there were students saying that there were multiple students involved that had mentioned it. Now, whether or not law enforcement wants to pursue an investigation, I can respect that. But I'm just saying, you know, as a school board, or as at least as a board member, because I guess I'm just one person, that once law enforcement, I can agree to that, once law enforcement concludes its investigation, because according to what Dr. Pace was kind of insinuating, she didn't say declaratory, because law enforcement can do their own thing. But for right now, it sounds like law enforcement's not going to pursue looking at any of these accusations to anyone. But if they don't pursue it, I still want on our own.
We do that. We pursue them independent of law enforcement once we know law enforcement has said we're not doing anything else.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm asking for then is when law enforcement concludes, can we get a copy of that report and look at specifically that? Because it is concerning, because I have students that told the media that they reported it. Just because law enforcement doesn't want to pursue it, I still want to pursue it and know that they did in fact report it, and what are we doing about it? Because it is a concern, you know, and I just want to alleviate that concern.
We will. Anytime you get a case like this, you're going to get a report back from me on it, because to me, it's we've said enough. It's critical.
Okay.
Thank you for the conversation. Mr. Koppenbacher, do you have any other issues under your seat?
On a piece of what I think is positive news, there is a group called Operation Socrates that basically takes active service duty members and would place them in an internship student teaching position at the district, where they would receive career counseling, guidance, support, and help basically train them to be able to teach. All right. The reason I'm bringing it up to you is the actual organization that runs this does not carry liability insurance. So the students or the service members, according to Operation Socrates, because their service members would be covered by the federal government's insurance, whatever that may be, all right? And I'm asking you, and we talked through this severally, recommending that we participate in this program because it's members of the military. And if in fact, we have our own coverage for anything that goes wrong, but this would be where they would assign people, we would take them and they would be trained to be able to teach. But I can't personally, nor can the superintendent, waive our standard requirement that we want insurance if we're going to enter into an agreement with anyone where they're going to provide people. These people would all be fingerprinted, be checked, and they'd all be active military. And they'd be under the supervision of an adult who works here.
I have a lot of questions. Mr. Arboyo, you're recognized.
Are these, obviously, these are not people who are stationed here, so it's like, basically, this would be their active duty station during their term of service?
I'll be candid with you, Mr. I don't know where they come from, whether they're here and they're assigned here and sent, well, you guys can be stationed in Orlando while you're learning, type thing, et cetera. All I know is that they are active duty military in the United States.
Well, I know from experience, if you get accepted to a program like this where they send you away from cutting the grass, then normally it's because it's a merit issue. So, I'm sorry, do you know? Yeah.
No, yeah.
I would say
Yeah,
I'd like
otherwise
more
they wouldn't.
information on this program as well, if you want to make any decisions.
Yeah, is this I'm sorry, I'm not recognized, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Are you all settled,
Yep.
Mr. Arboyo? Thank you, Mr. Melendez, for being patient. Go ahead.
Is this a pilot program, or does this program already exist? And that way we can.
They're running this program. I'll bring back more
just
information
bring
because I
back.
just got it, all right, and flush it out more, but I wanted to let you know it's out there if you hear anything. And they may also include veterans, et cetera. So at a time when we need teachers, if you can get through any of the risks, I would tell you as the lawyer, I wouldn't hang it up over the fact they don't have insurance.
Yeah, great questions from the rest of the board. I'm curious to know more. I'm also wondering certification-wise, like what would they be certified to teach? Yeah, if you can bring us more information and
Well,
attach key
absolutely.
business, or, sorry, unfinished business for next board meeting, that would be great. Was that all you had under your seat?
One last thing.
Sure.
I'm going to send you, was dealing today with a book challenge and advising those people in the district the process to go through, but I just wanted to bring up that I'm going to send you the Library Media Center Purchasing Guidelines Directions, January of 2023, and paragraph 3 requires that the media specialists present their proposed purchase list to the school advisory committee for input.
Thank you. It does look like 1901 is also yours, out-of-state travel?
Yes.
Clarification.
At the last meeting, the issue of out-of-state travel came up. Let me tell you. Section 1001.39 specifically provides that any travel outside the district that exceeds $500 requires prior approval by the district school board. It doesn't separate out the 500 from the total approval. So it's really the board's judgment right now. The statute doesn't say, oh, by the way, you get the first 500, and it says the trip over 500 has to be totally approved by the board. So as it relates to reimbursement of $500 for an out-of-state trip not previously approved by the board, for that $500, it would require the board to take the position it was going to be reimburse it. But if you read the literal meaning of the statute, it says that such a trip requires prior approval.
I think last time we did not approve the trip, we were just hung up on the $500, is that correct? Okay. And then based on your recommendation, you're saying that this is not a clear statute?
Well, I think it's clear. It says if it's a trip over 500, the whole thing has to be approved
Understood.
previously.
Okay.
Now,
What is the action that you're requesting from us?
no, I'm leaving it to you to deal with it as the board.
Oh, thanks.
Okay.
Okay.
If you want a recommendation, I would tell you, I think it jeopardizes the board member involved and the board and puts you at risk for an attack and I'm not worried legally, but an argument that you violated the law because it wasn't previously approved.
Okay, thank you for that recommendation. Board, I'm going to, can we bring this under unfinished business next time as an action item to, I guess, are we just not?
I mean, unless you're gonna give them the money, you don't
We're
need
not,
to
yeah,
do
we're not
anything.
gonna, I recommend that we don't.
So then you don't need to
So then
do
we don't need to
anything,
do anything, are we good with that?
because it dies.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I'm good with that, I don't know what the rest of the board thinks. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, looks like we have consensus on that, I appreciate that. Next item is 19.02, brought forth by Board Member Cahoon.
Yes, I'd just like to revisit the board procedures that were presented a few meetings back where we had made a motion to approve without putting a time limit on ourselves, and I feel like it is time to revisit that and put a time limit back on in accordance to the original procedures that were presented. So I make a motion to approve the original.
3 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, the only
1 second, please. I have a motion by Board Member Cahoon and a second by Board Member, Board Member Booth. I will entertain comments and then we're going to take a vote.
Yeah, mine's more of a point of order, because actually, I'm in favor of this, but it's actually more of a procedural thing, because this is actually in school board rules.
Oh.
And since it's a school board rule, we just can't simply vote on it. It has to be publicly noticed and everything like that. But I am in support of the rule. I just want to technically
You
do it
would
the
be
right
voting,
way.
and then Mr. Boyd would have to put the rule
Right,
together.
so it's not like, unfortunately, it's not effective immediately, even though I think that it's good conduct to do it. And I've been pretty good so far. I've been trying to maintain myself under 3 minutes. It was actually somebody else that
Thank you for
can't
that
do that.
clarification. Mr. Boyd, I do have you pending. Mr. Boyd, my question to you is if the board decides that this is something that we want to add to our board rules, would you bring that back to the next time that you're up here, along with everything else we talked about? Okay, thank you for that point of clarification.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. John, how long is it to the next rulemaking cycle?
It's May 16th. Oh, you mean the next cycle would be?
To pass the rule. I think they want to get it into effect, so I think you're telling them to bring it back at the next meeting. Otherwise, you're going to wait several months because he falls into the cycle.
We are now in the middle of the current rulemaking cycle where it is advertised broadly that would allow you, because tonight was a workshop, I can take what change you're asking for, include it in the materials for the May 16th meeting where you would take action. It would also allow a time for public comment at that time.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Mr. Arguello, did you withdraw your
Yep.
comment?
No, I got a comment.
Okay, and then Mr. Melendez will be recognized once again.
Yeah, so, number one, I think it's rich that the two board members that have had barely 3 minutes in which they've offered any solutions or contributions to the school district are gonna make this motion. And number two, if you go back to this meeting, I'd love to see the countdown on how long anybody has actually spoke. There may be 1 or 2 occasions in which somebody spoke more than 3 minutes. So I would suggest a good watch where you can take the time. It's totally unnecessary. It shows that you lack absolutely any good faith whatsoever in these rules. And I would be embarrassed. I would be embarrassed to come here, campaign on what you've campaigned on, and then come here and try to limit the 3 minutes. First of all, I think that the demonstration that we saw a few minutes ago is exactly what's going to end up with this. Because I'm not sure how this would be enforced. Mr. Attorney, how would this be enforced?
The timer would have to be set, and the chair would have to watch it, and the board members, just like the public, and they'd have to go.
And then?
And then you
I guess we'll
go,
be
either call the
recessing a
question or
lot.
go on.
So we'll be recessing a lot. So instead of allowing the time for somebody to finish their statement, we're gonna make an even further circus. That may be where you belong, but certainly it would be best if we were debating these issues, which are pretty important. I know that you come here with marching orders, but me, at the very least, I come here to work for the public, and if you did, you wouldn't be worried about 3 minutes.
Mr. Melendez, and then I will end with a comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I do believe in proper decorum. As a matter of fact, he was in agreement when it was me speaking over 3 minutes. Now it's him, now it's like, oh, then it doesn't apply to him. But one thing I do want to
That was a joke that I made.
One thing I do want to amend to it is if somebody's making a point, that we do limit it to 3 minutes. But if there is debate, out of due process, out of debate, I still want to cut off at 3 minutes. Allow another point to say something and allow one counter. It's kind of like a legal thing. You get like a closing argument. So then you get, but they're in 3-minute chunks. So that way it doesn't feel like you're being silenced. And that was my original hesitancy to it. But I would say 3-minute chunks. And then if somebody makes a point or I disagree, and I get 3-minute counter, and then maybe at most one closing, so at maximum, because we even put that in our school board rules for speakers. You could collaborate to a maximum of like 15 minutes or something like that. So I would like to even try to like be more specific with the rule and say, hey, I get 3 minutes block of time. If I need to counter something or I really want to make a point, I get the counter. And if that's good enough, it's good enough. And at the very end, if somebody else says, because sometimes debate is healthy, it's democracy. That's what this whole dais is for. But it's about respect and decorum and staying germane. Germane should never even be a school board rule. Germaneness is like sticking to the topic. That should be just, the chairwoman should have full authority to say, hey, you're not being germane. But a 3-minute rule, it does get into silencing. And I just do believe that if we do create a policy, 3-minute block of time, you're allowed one counter argument, and at best, one opposing argument for a maximum of 9 minutes total on particular issue.
Thank you for your comments. I'll be okay with that, to be honest. When I first saw this, I was like, well, let's go ahead and see what other people have to say. But just the disrespect that I experienced when I was letting someone speak and then rules be darned because I have something to say is the reason that I'm gonna go ahead and be in favor of this. I feel like we have actually made a commitment to each other in the past couple of months, and the way that the board meetings have gone, I'm actually proud of the way that we have conducted ourselves. But it seems to be that no matter how much respect and how much leeway we give to certain people, there's just nothing that we're gonna be able to do to have a respectful conversation, and that is the only reason, specifically because of what happened earlier today, that I would personally be in favor of that. And I do actually like your added point, counterpoint. I do think that we do want to have some healthy debate, but I do think that we have to have some.
But it has to remain germane though, because I'm even willing to say that I don't get a counter just to talk about fruit flies. It's got to be about the item being debated.
Agreed. I believe that we have consensus in bringing this back to the board. Mr. Argoyo, you have one more point, and I think we can move on to the next item.
Yeah, the problem is the intention here. The intention is rotten. The problem is the design. It's designed specifically for a purpose, and that purpose does not benefit the community whatsoever. The problem is the lack of serious thought. How do you get here? You're here for 5 minutes, and this is what you come up with, and this is what you have to contribute. The problem is the fact that the only thing that you can think about right now, we have all the problems in the district. We're in the news because of the relationships that have happened in the district. Bad stuff. Our grades are in the toilet. We have money things. We're having to cancel schools. And you come here with a 3-minute rule? I mean, be serious. Be serious. For God's sakes.
Yes.
Just put some thought into what you're doing. Put some love and care into what you're doing, because that doesn't demonstrate any of that. It says more about you than my willingness to play by your rules.
Thank you, team. John, you look forward to that next item. Yes.
That is an action item that does require a vote.
Okay, so the vote that we're taking is to add this to our board rules. Is that correct, Mr. Poppenbacher? Great. Do you have a motion?
You have a motion?
Oh, I have a motion by
And a
Ms.
second.
Capeman. Okay. A motion and a second. Board, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Thank you. Mr. Arguello, you pulled item 19.03, and I believe, do we have someone that can speak on this here?
Ed and Katrina.
Okay, perfect. Mr. Arguello?
Yeah, I didn't pull this item. Actually, they were supposed to come and deliver a presentation. Now, this presentation that they're supposed to deliver, I've already looked through it. It doesn't really touch on the things that I was requesting. So you guys can go ahead and go through your presentation if you wish. But really what I was looking for is that when we decided that we said yes to small business, we said yes to veteran, we said yes to local, but we said no to minority. And the deal was that we were going to go back and look at the numbers and see what the preliminary data told us in regards to the necessity regarding disparity. So that's really what I'm interested in seeing.
Let us come back at the next meeting.
Okay, so all that, and then we should be, like, I looked, there's no real numbers there. Like, I want to know everyone who has signed up. I want to know what the dollar amounts were. I want to know what contracts they were awarded. I'd like to pretend, well, I'm not going to say anything. I know that you guys worked hard in the presentation. Take your time and provide the information, because my goal is not to have you come up here and then me try to embarrass you or anything like that. I want to give you the chance to come here, tell us how this program is doing, tell us how it's benefiting the community, and tell us exactly the numbers that a serious person, not everybody's serious, but that a serious person is interested in knowing regarding this program. Okay? Thank you guys very much.
Come to the next meeting.
And I'll email you what the thoughts are, just so we can make things focused.
Okay. Are we settled on item 19.03 then?
Are they not going to do the presentation?
No.
No? Okay, thank you. Thank you for being willing to do the presentation.
Yeah, thank you for your work.
New business, Mr. Melendez, did you bring this up?
Yeah, Chad brought it up like actually 2 meetings ago because I didn't meet the deadline, and we've kind of already spoken about it. And so I'm just letting you guys know, because I spoke with even staff and Rhonda about this, and we're kind of in agreement. What it looks like, we don't know yet, you know what I mean? But we agreed that it's an issue. And Frank is actually working on modifying the interlocal agreement. Part of my issue is that when we build a new school, we always say we have maximum of 10 portables on a school site. You know what I mean? Like, not that we put them in there, we build it, but we put our land set aside that's not a parking lot, just there for portables. The issue is, when we get to 10, we don't have to like trigger some kind of warning, you know what I mean? It's like, the minute we get to like, and that's the number I don't know yet, and staff was gonna kind of give me that, and she was kind of working on that. Like, when we build 2 portables, that's fluctuation of population, we can't control that. The minute you start getting to 5 or 6, we almost reach a max capacity. We shouldn't wait till we get to that 10th portable before we sit there and say, wait a second, do we need to build a wing? Do we need to redistrict? You know what I mean? And I just kind of want that policy to kind of be codified, to figure out, like, what is that portable policy? Like, I mean, is it acceptable to have 20 portables? Because I'm not trying to make fun of a school, but Westside Kate has like 30-something portables. Narcoosia, that's way too much. Obviously, a policy wasn't, even if there is a policy written, it wasn't implemented because, for whatever reasons, I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not like Mr. Arguello. I'm here to try to say this is an issue. And whatever that looks like, I'm not married to it. Just, we need to study that and come up with a policy. When is it too many portables on a school, and when do we do something about it? Because, you know, not only is it, you know, it's not fun for kids to be there, but you're spending utility dollars, the water bills, this and that. You might as well build a wing if it's permanently gonna be there. I mean, you don't wanna redistrict people. But I'm just saying that, I'm not saying, we don't have to say what that is. It's like a decision matrix. When we hit this, what do we do? When we hit this, what do we do? And just, there's certain trigger points for the board to have a conversation in a public forum to say, okay, what are we doing now because it's causing a problem? Because, you know, how many portables is too much? And we kind of agreed that 10 meant something. Now, what do we do when we hit 10? I don't know. That's what the rest of the board is, and that's what staff is gonna help me and Frank kind of come up with that concept. You know, I mean, I just want to give you guys an update of what that was.
Just a point of clarification, and I know, Ms. Regoya, you have a point as well. Your point in bringing this up is just to let us know that you and staff are working on a possible solution that you want to present?
Yes, and we're talking about, and it just happened to tie in at the same time that Frank had the workshop with Sharma and Rhonda about modifying the interlocal agreement, that we can get into that, maybe even tie it into their interlocal agreement modification too, that says, wait a second, you know, county, you know, we have a board policy that says, you know, 10 portables is too much. Maybe you're growing a little bit too fast over there, and we can kind of make adjustments to your growth plan according to how many portables that we have. But we can't enforce anything externally if we don't even have a policy internally. Internally, we have to have our own policy, is what is considered, you know, an adequate level of service for students to receive their education, and, you know, things like that, so.
I understand. Thank you. Mr. Arguello?
Yes, you just mentioned that you're not like me, but then you just give me a backhanded comment. And the true way that you're not like me is that you're not a man of conviction, and you have no courage, and you have no respect for yourself. You're only concerned with your career.
Is this regarding item point 19.03 or 20.01?
You didn't make a motion.
Okay, so your comment, nothing to do with anything we're talking about. Were we all set?
Yes, it doesn't require an action item, we're just working on it.
Thank you
And I
for
just
the
wanted
information.
the school board to give me input.
And just one more time, can I just say thank you for providing the information? I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you, team. It is 3:03. I'm proud of us today. Meeting adjourned.
You can't be proud of yourself. You're ridiculous.